good news, I've learned how to edit video. So, definitely a step up from yesterday. Um, this video is, I want to try doing something that I've seen some other YouTubers doing, which is having not read very many traditional romance novels. I will cold read some on camera and kind of just give a review, give like my impression, because like not to ceaselessly beat on it, because I do think that romance is a genre that has its place in the world. But there's two things that I really love to see. One of them is really, really badly written sex, but the other one's really well written sex. So, like, we'll see. It's a toss up at this point. Today I've got a book that is not at all in season for this time of year. It's called My Favorite Things by Lindsay Sands, and it's a Christmas collection. And my dear friend Shuya got this for me from Target because, quote, it had the horniest cover, and they thought that I would like that. Definitely the abs situation on this man is something special. He looks a little bit like a glazed ham. He's looking very intently at the camera. He really wants you to know just how many of my favorite things he's about to deliver for the holiday season. But before I start reading the first story in this collection, which is called All I Want, I am going to need a little bit of tea to push me through in these trying times. I didn't say what tea I had in the first video. This one is Earl Grey with lavender. More excellent radio. Alright, let's get down to business. I will obviously not be reading the whole thing because it would be here forever, but I'm going to use some of my new fun editing skills to kind of pare this bad boy down. So this is All I Want by Lindsay Sands. Let's get into the prologue. Let's start off. A doll just like the one in Worcester's window. That's what I want for Christmas. Prudence smiled slightly at her sister's words as the younger girl hugged their mother and kissed her goodnight. Charlotte had been making her wishes known for weeks now, and Prudence and her mother had been working very hard at making a similar doll for her most of that time. The doll itself was finished, though not completely satisfactorily. They were not professionals at the job, but they had done the best they could. Charlotte was a good girl, though. She would love it no matter its imperfections, especially since they were making tiny little dresses for the doll that matched each of the girls' own gowns. Prudence was positive the child would be pleased. So, first impressions from that. I love a strong feminist message. I love it to see these women coming together. Definitely kind of typical from what I know about this sort of thing, like, oh, Mummy, could I have a doll for Christmas, etc., etc. We also learn in this prologue section that the dad has a gambling addiction, so that's why they're making a doll themselves. They, like, released all their staff members, and they are going to end up in debtor's prison, potentially. So that kind of adds a little fun Dickens flavor in there. Ooh, debtor's prison. I do not mean to make light of that. I know it's probably sucked so bad. And now on chapter 1, that was just the prologue. So Prudence is this main character's name. Prudence accepted the hack driver's assistance to alight, paid him, and then turned to stare at the front of Ballard's, The building was clean and stately looking, with windows on every level. It looked like a home. No one seeing it would know that it was a gaming hell where men gambled away their lives and the lives of the family members they were supposed to love. Didn't read the summary. I'm guessing now that this is where the dad is throwing away the family's lives. But what it seems like to me is also maybe that this author has kind of like a Puritan sensibility maybe about gambling. Like, ooh, they're doing the dice games. They're not obeying the Lord. They're doing craps or whatever. Like, so she's there. She goes up to the door, try to get in. And there's some beefy dudes standing there. Prudence had heard that Lord Stockton, the owner, had taken the innovation of hiring female servants to serve the food and drink that persuaded clients to stay longer and lose more money. But those were the only women allowed inside. So they're not going to let her go in. I don't really know what she wants yet, but she's not getting the fuck in there. And then it says, "Nay, the man guarding the door would not be eager to allow her entry." Nay, N-A-Y. Definitely some English flavor. Okay, so she tries very hard to get in, and she walks directly into one of these bouncers. Tasting victory, she picked up her speed and barreled ahead. That speed almost saw her tumbling backward onto her fanny when the doorman suddenly stepped into her path. I'm sorry, her fanny. I don't know whether this is charming that it's speaking like this or it's disconcerting. I am definitely not the target audience for my favorite things a Christmas collection. And the man says, "Ain't no women allowed." I'm not going to do a British accent. That's not what's going to happen. I won't do that. Won't demean myself in that way. And they argue for several pages. He says, "Ladies ain't never allowed. Never, ever." And it kind of repeats for several lines of dialogue of her and this man going back and forth. Like, "Can I get in? No, you can't. Can I get in? Ladies ain't allowed," whatever. But then, in a sudden turn of events, she beats him over the head with an umbrella. And in doing that, it says she had never ever used physical violence before. Why did she do that then? It doesn't work because the guy is just kind of annoyed and he says, "Now what'd ye go and do that for?" And also it's revealed that she's trying to go to the gaming hell to get the dad out so they don't end up in debtor's prison. I guess he's just trying to, like, planning to march in there and, like, grab this dirty little man and, like, drag him home. And she kind of falls apart like a house of cards at this, because she just starts fucking crying. And then, on the scene, immediately once she starts crying, a man steps out of the building, and he is announced as Stephen, period. Lord Stockton, period. Everyone knew Lord Stockton. It's his club. Long story short. Then it goes into Stephen's point of view. And he's just like, "Hey, what up? This is my club. Women ain't allowed in here. I don't know what's going on. Why are y'all fighting?" And they go through the "ladies are not allowed inside" thing again. I realize none of this is sex. Like, I'm a decent amount into this story, but, like, they and they did just meet. I have the feeling that this is one that's like more about feminism and like dragging her dad out of gaming hell. Okay, more lore. They're just standing outside the casino, I guess, and saying nay a lot, which I don't know. I'm not going to be too hard on Lindsay for saying nay, because they totally said that in like 1700s England. I'm pretty sure. It's revealed that her brother, quote unquote, the only male child, died, and that's why her dad likes gambling now. So I guess that is pretty sad. And then Stephen recognizes her as like, oh yeah, the daughter of the guy that's here all the time. I feel like he should know. This dude should maybe know that this man that's there all the time, like, has a problem, because, like, it just said, like, oh, yeah, I know that guy whose son died, and he's here all the time. I feel like that should be maybe more of a big deal. Wow, alright. Great start to the romance. Stephen immediately begins to manhandle Prudence, and puts her in a taxi, essentially. And she goes, I have no wish to go home. I need to speak to my father. And he goes, he's a fully grown man. He knows what he's doing. I don't know about that. Seems like this man needs to go to therapy, maybe? That's... what are you gonna do? And now she's pissed, understandably. Okay, plot twist at the end of chapter 1. Ladies aren't allowed in Ballards. Again, yeah, we did know that. She said to herself as the carriage rolled to a stop before her home. Then I suppose I shall have to go as a man. That's reasonable. You know what? Definitely a little bit of intrigue there. Now I'm into it. See? What are you gonna do? Okay, kind of weird juxtaposition in this next chapter. She does, in fact, dress up as a man, using her, I think her dad's clothes, I guess, which is kind of funny. Like, hey, it's me, my dad, the guy that's in there right now. I don't know. Let's explore this fun bit of gender trouble, shall we? She wears this hat. At first, the hat had seemed something of a blessing, since it allowed her to tuck her long chestnut hair underneath. Now Prudence found it more of a problem. She feared it might slide right off her head, spilling the hair and revealing her gender. 'Cause you know that the length of your hair, no matter what time period you live in, signifies what gender you identify as. If I'm being correct in saying here, like, this is like some Dickens shit, like 1700s, like, men were walking around with long hair, like, flowing, like fucking like Louis and Lestat in like Interview with a Vampire. Like, that shit was flowing. So I don't understand why that's a problem, but yeah. So she walks up to the place and she goes, pip pip cheerio, she tried in her deepest voice, and that's the only thing she says to the bouncer. That's it. She didn't say anything more than pip pip cheerio. Having a little bit of a break for tea. Okay, again, there's a second episode now of this woman hitting someone in the head by accident. This time it's herself. As how we all could have predicted, that her hat comes off and somebody goes like, oh, a woman! And she's like, what? a woman, and she's holding a cane, and she hits herself in the face with it. Um, so that's rough. Well, I did not see that coming. She hits herself in the face. There's a little more fun feminism there for a minute, like when this maid kind of like tries to help her out of it, like a maid that works there, I guess. Um, and the owner shows up. Lord Stockton shows up as like, who could have seen that coming? I did see that coming, but what I didn't see coming is when he confronts her about sneaking in again, and like chilling there. He gets her like up in the principal's office, like ready to sit her ass down. Um, and let's explore together what happens. I do not care. Do not say anything. Anything at all, he snapped. Oh, now surely. Her words ended on a startled gasp when he suddenly whirled and strode forward with an expression that did not bode well. Alarm coursing through her, Prudence lurched back, only to come up against the chair before his desk. She opened her mouth desperately, ready to babble that she was sorry, and would remain silent, only to have his mouth close down over hers as he paused before her. Eyes wide open, she stood completely still as his mouth moved over hers, her heart seemingly dead from shock in her chest. Then she felt the first smoky tendrils of passion stir to life within her, and she softened under the kiss, only to be left gasping when he suddenly tore his lips away. She started to lift one hand to her lips, but he grabbed her by the upper arms and still held her. You kissed me, she said in a gasp. His mouth twitched at her startled announcement, then twisted when she added, Why? To silence you, he answered abruptly. Can I say that was the least appealing kiss I think I've ever witnessed? I didn't even get that it was happening when I first saw it. His mouth closed down over hers. First of all, feminism resigned. He didn't ask her nothing. Second of all, mouth closed down over hers. Like, what is he? Is he, like, biting her? Like eating her mouth. It's so unappealing. But, like, she's into it a little bit, I guess. Like, I don't know what the hell the point of that is. And then her pants fall off. That isn't him, this Stockton man, doing that. Her pants were just too big and fell off. That is a point in Ms. Lindsay's corner, because I did think that was sort of funny, but I do have the humor of like a 6-year-old, so. Here's a line that I like in the next chapter. I had nothing to do with her trousers falling down. The words came blurting out without his volition. He's like not even having a conversation that has anything to do with her, and he just is like, I didn't take her pants off. I didn't do it. Like, lady doth protest too much. He's thinking about her and her pants. Damn. She had looked fine in breeches. Even sagging baggy breeches. But, he thought with a small smile, she had looked even better with them pooled around her ankles. I don't like this man. At first I was willing to give him maybe a benefit of the doubt. He does own a gaming hell, and he is enabling this random depressed man into spending this family's entire amount of money on, like, roulette or whatever. But I was like, I don't know, he could have some hang-ups of his own. You don't know that. Maybe he's also just trying to survive in this cruel Dickensian world. But it does kind of just seem like he's a jerk. Retconning that Steven's nice all of a sudden. So Prudence hangs out with her friend Eleanor, um, and she suddenly says, like, he was terribly handsome and debonair, and he had shown his kindness on several occasions. So, what's happening here is, like, it seems like we didn't, like, the showing and telling aspect of this, like, we're being told an awful lot about this. He's nice, and, like, there's never a wallflower when he's around, but, like, we didn't see that. That wasn't shown. This is just like, ah, yes, that's Steve. He's a real charmer. What did he do? I don't know. We're not gonna put even any examples in here. Sorry, I feel like I'm taking a hard dump on this already, but that is absolutely not what I came in here to do. I genuinely had no idea what this was about until I opened it, so we're exploring it together. These are also my first, like, my cold open hot takes. Like, I had no preconceptions. I don't know, I could have enjoyed at least some aspect of this. Like, I'm not trying to shit on the like, the target audience for Lindsay Sands, my favorite things, a Christmas collection. This is great. Um, it means almost nothing to the plot of this story other than she wears a dress that she thinks is quote unquote as indecent as could be, in a fit of distress. She says her nipples were nearly showing. Yeah, all right. Okay, so update on the plot, if we shall call it that. Um, Prudence has decided to sneak in to work at the casino and slip her dad in a medic so he'll stop drinking and just, like he'll get so sick that he can't anymore. But, like, why wouldn't he recognize his own child giving him drugs anyway? Again, predictably, Stephen Stockton notices. And gets her again in his office, but this time he's like, she thinks he's gonna smooch her or something, but it turns out she also accidentally gave him of the emetic, and he gets sick. So I guess that's I guess that's kind of like feminism got hired again. Thank you. His voice was still raspy, but soft as he raised a hand to caress her cheek. I appreciate your care. That's what he says when she's taking care of him after she fed him an enormous amount of Miralax. So, in a fantastic plot twist that, again, I don't know if any of us could have seen coming, Mr. Stephen admits to Prudence that his dad was also a gamester, but more upsettingly, he apparently did commit suicide over it. So, I guess some of Stephen's upsetness perhaps makes sense, but I still genuinely don't get why then he wouldn't stop Prudence's dad from coming into the casino. Also, furthermore, I don't understand why he runs a casino. If that happened to him, like, I don't get. And then immediately after he says that, he starts making out with her. Like, immediately. So let's see how Lindsay Sands does it. All right. So this is a sex scene. Let's see if it's a good sex scene or a bad sex scene. Uh, some things happen right away. His hands clasped her breasts through her gown, squeezing gently, and for a moment it felt as if all the air had left her lungs. I think that's interesting, at least like he's paying attention to her, but it also kind of gives it the image like he's like deflating her body, like, oh, the air left my lungs, like he deflated me. I don't know. Um, in the middle of making out with him, he asks if she'll if he'll kick her dad out, and he says it depends, which kind of sucks, huh? Wow, he immediately tries to gaslight her, saying like, oh, is this not some way to pay me back because your father loses money in my establishment? But meanwhile, he's like kind of guilting her into fucking him. Very weird. Still don't like him. Have an entire exchange of I or nay, and I don't even really know what that means. Wait, I apologize. They don't even finish having sex because a huge spider falls on his head. I cannot make this up. Distracts the entire scene, completely derails the scene. Dropping, actually, straight for Stephen's unsuspecting head, a spider lowering itself on its silken thread. That's kind of rough, huh? Like, they're, like, kind of almost in the middle of doing it, and, like, this fucking spider comes in, and then, like, this other girl shows up, and they just have to stop doing it. Okay. Updates on plot. A whole bunch of women show up to the casino to protest it because too many of their husbands are inside it. But then it turns out that the men just leave and go to other casinos. And then Stephen is sad because he doesn't have as much money. And then Prudence is like, I'm so sorry. I should never have blamed the owners of the casinos. Like, the poor persecuted casino owners. It's not their fault. And etc., etc. And I don't really know what the message is. And immediately after, she and Steven go ice skating. It's Christmas Eve now. So get this. A little bit of a Christmas miracle went down. Apparently somebody, who knows who, banned the dad from all of the gambling dens, quote unquote. And he shows up completely dazed in the house on Christmas morning, asking for liquor. Yeah. And then he cries a lot. And there is a truly weird scene where the mother is like, it doesn't matter that you don't have gifts for us. I got all I wanted for Christmas. Her husband's confusion was plain to see. What was that? I prayed you would stop drinking and gambling, and that we wouldn't spend Christmas in a debtor's prison. That is so weird. The bar is so fucking low. That's incredible. Apparently, it was Steven's fault I say fault. Like, it was Steven's doing that the dad is banned and, like, all his debts are paid off. And then out of nowhere, he goes, "Yeah, I did it so the woman I love wouldn't end up in debtor's prison for Christmas." And it's been like 3 weeks or something. Like, maybe that's even too long. Like, I feel like it's maybe, I'm being generous to say 3 weeks. I feel like maybe it's been like a 3 day period since they met. But whatever. Now they get to bone down. Some fun lines here. He immediately took advantage of the invitation, devouring her with a passion that had him hardening to shameful proportions. His body was reacting like an untried lad's, and he was heeding its plaintive urgings. I don't know what a shameful proportion is. Like, is his dick, like, becoming like a cartoon clown balloon animal? Like, what would be shameful? I don't know. He immediately starts sucking her tit. Just like, in that way that they do where he quote unquote lavs her nipple. That's Laved. Lav. And that's pretty much all they're doing. And then he says, "And what do you want for Christmas?" Me? She seemed surprised. "I want cannot be purchased. I would like more of this," she said huskily, which is like, yeah, classic. Like, that's the favorite things right there, is this heterosexual boning on the carpet. And then he says, "You know what I want for Christmas? We should get married." And the story ends. She agrees to marry him, quote unquote, "my own personal hero, the man who saved my family." And he goes, "No, I don't want you to marry me out of gratitude." But that's like essentially what he did, isn't it? That's about 1/3 of the book. Maybe I'll just make 3 separate hot takes on each of these absolutely strange little stories. Definitely feel like there was a lot of potential that could have happened there. I do like the idea of a hot, like, casino man owner who is like kind of mean, but like he has a gentle center or whatever, but he's still like scandalous, like they're playing the dice games, they're not heeding the word of the Lord. But what he actually was kind of weird and manipulative, and I thought it would be more about feminism, but we don't even see that girl get that doll. So I don't even know if that happened. Did she get that doll? I don't know. She, like, that kid, that Charlotte kid, she's got, like, what'd she get for Christmas? Her sober, crying dad dragged himself back home for Christmas. That's what she got. At this point, like, sucks that divorce laws probably weren't a thing for them at that point, because, like, if I was the mom, I'd be like, what I want for Christmas is an attorney. Goodbye. Anyway, yeah, I probably will make a separate one for the other two, because that's getting very long, and I don't think anybody has the patience to listen to me read a romance novel for 120 minutes, so...